If you're looking at today through the eyes of the past, you'll miss what the present moment has for you. You know, the reason that the mind has such a hard time being happy is because of its unwillingness to let go and to move on from a painful past. And if you have a hard time letting go and moving on from a painful past, you'll have a hard time being happy in the moment because of other things that have happened. Bryant McGill said that people who have had little self-reflection live life in a huge reality blind spot. Isn't that interesting? So you have to be able to have time each day to just self-reflect. Oftentimes our greatest opportunities are hidden in our blind spot. That's why you need time just to reflect on where your blind spots are, because some of your greatest opportunities are hidden in your blind spot. And so my question to you is this: who helps you to compensate for your blind spots? Who helps you to compensate for your blind spots? Stuff that you don't see coming, trends that you don't see coming, patterns that you don't see coming, storms that you don't see coming. Who helps you to compensate for your blind spots? Just realize that people are our mirrors, and they allow us to see angles of ourselves that we cannot necessarily see. You know, nobody can see what their back looks like without the help of a mirror. People around us become our mirrors. You know how when you go to certain stores and they'll have this three-pronged mirror where it's sort of slanted here, then there's one that's straight, and then there's another slanted one, and it creates that sort of effect? That's so that you can turn at an angle and look in one of the other mirrors and get a reflection to see your posterior. And so there are people that help you in your blind spot, because nobody can see their scapula straight on. If you see your back, you can only see it by the aid of mirrors, something else that is reflecting to you the image of who you really are. And you have to have people that you can trust that will help you in a blind spot, because you can get mad at God for stuff that happened and not even realize that God was there all the time. Jacob said, you know, surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. I was blind to it. I couldn't see him. And I assumed that he wasn't here. But here was Jacob. Jacob took a rock and used a rock as his pillow. What is that saying to us? It is saying that headship must always be set on solid foundation. Are you listening? You have to lay it on something that is stable. It's got to be set on the rock. Not something that is shifty, not something that just sinks down and gets so comfortable. Headship can never afford to get too comfortable. Headship has to always be at a certain place of discomfort, because they've got to watch. He laid his head on something that was stable, something that was solid, something that was foundational. He laid his head there, and then his vision opened up. Something opened up in his mind, because everybody has a blind spot. Who helps you to compensate for your blind spot? Who? You have to be thinking about the who that helps you to compensate for your blind spot. Who gives you feedback about how you're doing? Who gives you feedback about how you're doing? Who serves as your extra set of eyes? Who serves as your extra set of eyes? Who serves as your mirror to help you see angles of yourself that you cannot see? Who have you given permission to speak brutal truth to you about you? Who? I mean, to whom have you made yourself accountable? Have you ever been in a certain situation and you go out and then, you know, and you see something on you in the mirror, and then you got somebody that's supposed to be with you and supposed to have your back, and it's like, why did you let me come out like that? I mean, I've seen some people out in public myself, and I see them with somebody, and I say, you know what, they must not love them. I'm like, do they realize that we can see them? Do they realize you're out in the public? We see you. I blame the person that they're with. But you always need to be able to take time to reflect. Effective feedback allows you to see yourself in unexpected ways. Effective feedback. It allows you to see yourself in unexpected ways. Do you know your blind spots? Do you know your blind spots? Sometimes your blind spot could be that you are too emotional, you're too compassionate, you're too soft. And so that means that you're too easy to be taken advantage of. You're too trusting of people. If somebody tells you something, you take it like it's Bible. And other people are like, you know what? I mean, I know that so-and-so said that to you. But let me tell you something, sweetie. Come here. Can I tell you that you weren't the first person that he said that to? And you won't be the last. You need perspective of somebody, because you get all in love, you can't see the trees for looking at the forest. And you'll be confused, and you need somebody who has been around the block, somebody who has had people to lay lines on them and know how to make you feel good and dismiss all of your judgment and your common sense and your reasoning ability because you feeling all, your hormones, Do you know your blind spots? And are you blind to God's goodness over your life? Are you blind to His miracle of grace in your life? And how often do you spend time in self-reflection? You have to ask yourself that question. How often do I spend time in self-reflection? You know why? Because reflection turns experience into insight. Reflection turns experience into insight. I don't get insight on things until I reflect on them. There has to be a time that I'm actually reflecting on it, that then it becomes insight. Reflection turns experience into insight. Don't just go through life and let life happen to you and you talk about it to somebody. Spend time in reflection on it so you learn the lessons, and there are certain things from certain experience that you never ever want to be in this place again. So you need to reflect on, what did I do wrong? How did this accident happen? How did I make this mistake? If you don't reflect on it, you won't gain the wisdom of what went wrong. You won't get any insight as to how to avoid this in the future. And this is why reflection is so important, because reflection turns experience into insight. When was the last time that you asked yourself, have I hurt anyone today? When was the last time you asked yourself that? Have I hurt anyone today? Or did my tone offend anyone today? Or am I taking people who love me for granted? When was the last time you asked yourself that? Am I taking the people who love me for granted? When was the last time you asked yourself, did I help anybody today? When was the last time that you asked yourself, am I withholding forgiveness from someone who has offended me? When was the last time you asked yourself this question, am I making a difference in the world with my life? Am I making a difference in the world with my life? When was the last time you asked yourself, am I sensitive to the needs of others around me? Unless you ask questions, you don't get answers. When was the last time you asked yourself, how do I get along with my family? How do I get along with my coworkers? How do I get along with my neighbors? How do I get along with my teammates? How do I get along with my church members? Because, if you start asking yourself those questions and you discover that, I don't get along with my coworkers, and I don't get along with my family members, and I don't get along with my teammates, and I don't get along with my church members, you start realizing you are the problem. But unless you ask reflective questions, how do I get along with my family, my teammates, my church members, my neighbors, my coworkers? How do I get along with people? Ask yourself that question. Because some people are blind to the fact even that words are not enough. Words are not enough. Say that with me, words are not enough. They're not enough. You know why? May I tell you why? It's because love is deaf. Love is deaf. You can't just tell someone you love them. You must show them. You have to show them. You have to show them. Everybody do this. This is I love you in Spanish, in sign language. Hang loose. You have to show people that you love them, because love is deaf. You have any Bible for that? Absolutely. The Bible puts it this way: love not in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Have you ever noticed that bad habits lead to bad results? Anybody who has bad habits, it will eventually lead to bad results in their life. I promise you that. Bad habits lead to bad results. It's a fact. Just check it out. Anybody, bad habits? I don't care whether it's eating, smoking, doing drugs, sex, pornography, whatever it is. Bad habits lead to bad results. Whether it's how you spend your money, it's impulsive spending. Bad habits lead to bad results. Bad habits lead to bad results. And that means that if you don't change the bad habit in time, you already know where it's going. It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well because bad habits lead to bad results. Bad habits lead to bad results. Isn't it interesting that pessimistic, negative people are blind to the good in their life? There are some people that are so negative, they find a problem with every solution. They're just negative. They miss the blessings that they have. They can't even enjoy and celebrate the good in the person that they're with because they're negative. You know, why don't you have to fix your hair? Is that the only thing you had to put on? I mean, the cornbread was cold today. I mean, they have something to say about everything. But listen, don't be blind to the good in your life. Don't be blind to the good in your life. Look for it. It is there. Look for it. It's there. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It could be in your blind spot. Remember, Jacob said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. I was blind to it. The good is there. Look for it. God is there, even in the midst of confusion. Even in the midst of economic hard times, God is right in the midst of it. He's there. Look for him. He's there. I promise you, God is there. He's there. God is there. God is there with you. He's there in the midst of your loneliness. He's there in the midst of pain. He's there in the midst of sickness. He's there in the midst of confusion. He's right there. God is there. He's in the blind spot, but he's there. And I even want to encourage you. Get a journal and label it your gratitude journal and keep a list of the things that you're grateful for. Just get a journal and label it your gratitude journal and just keep a list of the things that you're grateful for. And you will discover, if you're honest with yourself, if you think about it, if you spend reflective time each day, you will find something to put in that journal every single day. Not a day will go by. You'll be able to, I challenge you to start writing down 3 things each day for which you're grateful. 3 things every day for which you're grateful. For which you're grateful. That you didn't get run over by a car. That your mind is still stable to some degree. But make it a goal that every day that you'll write down 3 things. It'll shift your whole attitude. It can shift you out of negativity, out of an ungrateful heart, to start focusing to say, look what the Lord has done. Look what the Lord has done. You know, even if something was bad, it could have been worse. It could have, trust me, it could always be worse. And on your worst day, even if you felt like you had nothing to put in your journal, here's what you put in that day. It could have been worse. And then here's another line that you can put in. It's got to be better tomorrow. I'm thankful that a better day is coming tomorrow. I'm thankful. I mean, really, it could always be worse. Get the journal, and do the work. You'll be surprised what happens in your life when you really learn how to just trust God and be thankful for him. And you know, there are some things that your natural eyes can be blind to that your spiritual eyes can see clearly. And you know, that's what I like about discerning people. That's what I like about prayer warriors. God starts showing them stuff. You start seeing stuff that with your spiritual eyes that you can't see with your Natural eyes, and that's why you got to always have somebody around you whose spiritual eyes are open. Because they can see stuff coming, they can see mistakes that you're about to make, and they can warn you. I'm telling you, there's stuff that's out there. And you need spiritual people, you need discerners, you need mothers and fathers and grandparents and folks that really love you, that have lived life, and they can see things that you may be blind to from the place where you sit. From the position where you're stationed, you're blind to certain opportunities, but when you're there, you say, okay, come on, it's clear now. Have you ever backed out of a precarious space and somebody had to guide you, and they were standing where they could see oncoming traffic, but you couldn't? And they could say, oh, okay, come on. You've got to have those same kind of people in your life whose spiritual eyes can see something that you can't see coming yet. You ever notice 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 17 and 18? And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. And then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, and he said, strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness, according to the word of Elisha. Isn't it amazing? His servant was blind, and he said, Lord, open his eyes so he can see. And the enemies who were encamped all around them were seeing, and he's prayed, God, make them blind. And their eyes went out. And see, God can flip the script and take it to things that you were blind about. Now you're able to see it. And your enemies who were pursuing you and looking for dirt to take you down, God said, I'll make them blind. I'll blind your enemies' eyes, because they're trying to kill you. I'll blind them. You see, you have to realize that sometimes you are hidden not to hurt you, but to protect you. That God has blinded the eyes of your enemy to protect you. There's some stuff that he won't even let them even think to look at. He's blinded them. He has blinded their eyes in the same way that the god of this world, Satan, has blinded the eyes of people that do not believe, lest the glorious light of the gospel should shine in unto them. God brings light. You remember Moses was hidden on the backside of the desert for 40 years down in Midian. He was hidden on the backside of the desert for 40 years, hidden until the proper timing. God's got you in a blind spot until the proper timing. Don't get stressed out because you're trying to wait on somebody else. You're watching somebody else whose fruit and season has ripened. They've come into their season, and because they came into their season, and because y'all were in school together, you assume that it ought to be your season. But see, God has you on a different track. Your assignment is different. What you're birthing is different. Don't look at other people that are producing stuff, because you see, a mosquito can reproduce in 3 days. It takes an elephant 2 years. What do you want to give birth to, a mosquito blessing or an elephant blessing? So don't get the timetable mixed up because you become impatient and wondering, God, when are you doing it? God may have, he had Moses hidden on the backside of the desert for 40 years. 40 years. 40 years. My dear spiritual father, Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole, he didn't come into his ministry till he was 59. He was 59 years old when he established the Christian Men's Network. But what happened in the next 20 years, I watched God use that man around the world, going to 120 nations of the world and establishing powerful, efficacious ministry. And I bump into people that are his disciples all over the world. It's amazing. And he didn't start until he was 59 years old. He was hidden with a little of nothing till he was 59. God's got a plan. And I'm going to tell you this. If you ever want God to bless you, I would far rather that God bless me on the latter end of my life than on the front end. You don't have any sense at 18 years old. If he gave you a life savings at 18, it'll be gone by 25. I'm just telling you. Thank God that he'll wait until you have some sense to be able to contain the blessing. If he's going to bless you, let him bless you in your 50s where you know what to do with it. Because if he bless you at 23 and you got it all then, it's going to be gone. It'll be gone before you're 30. I'm just telling you. God knows what he's doing. God knows what he's doing. I'm just telling you, he knows, and there's some things that God's got you hidden in a place. He's just got you hidden to be able to bring you in a place of blessing. He's got you in a blind spot so nobody can touch you. He said, I don't want you to touch this. He says, I'm going to put them in a blind spot now because I don't want you to touch them. I don't want you messing with their mind. If I bring you out and expose you too soon, they're going to corrupt you. They're coming after you. They're going to aim at you. I've got to mature you. I've got to get you rooted and grounded. I've got to get you prayed up so that when they do start talking about you, you can handle it. That it doesn't make you want to quit and resign. Because I'm telling you, you'll find some people that will hurt your feeling and that will take what you do for granted and that will not express any thanks for what you do. And you got to say, you know what? I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for him. He's the one that called me. Whether you thank me or not, I'm in my assignment. I'm going to obey God. And so God will hide you. He will hide you in a secret place. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. God's got you hidden in a blind spot, not to hurt you. He's got you there to protect you. Sometimes he's protecting you from you. Because if too many people know you too early, it'll go to your head. You'll get beside yourself. God has a way of letting you go if he can trust you while you don't have anything. I'm just telling you, there are two things that really prove to people you trust and show people who you are by your attitude when you have everything and by your patience when you have nothing. And if God can just say, you know, that I know that this person doesn't have anything, but if I can trust them to be faithful while they don't have anything, if I bless them with something, you don't realize that God's got you waiting because you got some tests to take in that waiting time. He wants to prove you before he delivers into your hand the treasures, before he gives you the influence. He's got to make sure that you're not a rambling idiot. He's got to make sure I don't want to give too much too soon to a person that's going to fly off the handle. I've got to be able to see whether their character is matured, whether I can trust them with this. He said, I want to see how you handle money, because if you can't handle money, who's going to then trust to you the true spiritual riches? And there's some things that God says, I want you to see how you'll handle the revelation that I'll show you, because I've got so much more. And he says, I'll hide some things from you, but I'll show some things to you. And he says, I'm going to see how you love me when I show you a little, but I hide a lot. And then I've got a plan of how I will issue the stuff that I'm going to unveil in your life. I'll unveil it. And if you're faithful with what I unveil here, I'll give you more. To him that hath, more shall be given. And that him that hath not, even that will be taken away from you. But I'm just telling you, God's got you in some people's blind spots. And he's got some folks in your blind spot. And you got to trust God that even though, God, I feel like I can't see what you're trying to provide for me, but you'll come to that place like Jacob. And he's in Pandanaram and he's having an experience with God. It was as though he sneaked up on the back door to heaven when he laid his head on that rock. And revelation, it was a rock of revelation. Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my... And there was something that came from that rock, a ladder with angels ascending and descending. That I'll be bringing stuff to you, but I'll be taking stuff away. I'll be bringing it and taking it, bringing it and taking it. The Lord give it and the Lord take it away. I'll bring it and take it. I'll bring it and take it. Don't worry about the stuff that's taken, because more is on the way. More is on the way. Don't worry about who you lose, because somebody else is coming your way. My God, if you trust him, if you trust him, if you trust him, if you trust him, God's not going to build his kingdom around any one person. If this one is taken, God says, I got something else coming. I got something else coming down the ladder. Just hold your hope. Hold your hope, because something is on its way down the ladder to you. Whatever's going up to him, when we just lost this one, well, guess what? Something else is coming. Something else is being birthed. Something is coming down from heaven. Something is going there. There's a process of exchange that's happening. He said, surely God is in this place, and I didn't know it. He was in my blind spot. So even when you can't see him, even sometimes when you don't feel him, know that he's there. When you cannot see the manifest presence of God, trust the omnipresence. Trust the omnipresence. Trust the omnipresence. God says, I'm with you. I know you don't see me. You don't see me doing anything. You're afraid right now, and you feel like you're all alone. But God says, you're not alone. I'm in your blind spot. I'm in your blind spot, like a parent who has a child in nursery, and they want to observe, but they don't want the child to see them, because they know if they see me, they'll lose their cool, and they'll start crying. And so God says, I just want to check on my baby. But he's like, I see you. I see you. I got your back. I see you. I'm in your blind spot, but you're not in mine. I see you. I see you. I see you. And just because you don't see him, don't ever think that God does not see you. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. He's in my blind spot. I pray that you got something out of the word of the Lord today. I really do. Whatever's in your blind spot, whatever is in your blind spot, if you just keep moving, it'll come into view. If you keep moving, it'll come into view. If you keep moving, it'll come into view. If it's in your blind spot right now, if you keep moving, it will come into view. Don't ever let the devil get you to sit down in discouragement. If you keep moving, it will come into view.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.